Target Venezuela, the new colonialism for oil, gold, and lithium. Venezuela today stands at the center of a 21st-century resource war, where oil, gold, and lithium have turned the country into a prize in the global scramble for survival. The United States, faced with the weakening of the dollar and the slow erosion of its financial hegemony, is increasingly desperate to maintain control over energy and critical minerals. Washington's obsession with Venezuela is not simply about ideology. It is about resources and the preservation of empire. For decades, Venezuela has been viewed by the U.S. establishment as its backyard, a convenient reservoir of oil and wealth to be tapped whenever necessary. Yet the collapse of American unipolarity has shifted the game. With China and Russia investing heavily in Latin America, and with BRICS Plus expanding as an alternative economic bloc, Venezuela suddenly matters not only as a supplier of oil, but as a gateway to the future of lithium and gold markets. In a world where currencies are increasingly backed by commodities rather than trust in central banks, Venezuela's underground wealth represents both an opportunity and a threat. At the center of this geopolitical theater stands Nicolas Maduro. Once a bus driver, now a strongman, he has turned Venezuela into a fiefdom controlled by a tight circle of military loyalists and economic cronies. His government operates less like a functioning state and more like a mafia structure, trading resources for survival and distributing the spoils to keep his grip on power. Maduro positions himself as the champion of sovereignty against U.S. imperialism, yet the reality is more cynical. He maintains Venezuela as his own cash cow while cutting deals with Russia, China, Iran, and even, at times, back-channeling with Washington. Meanwhile, the Venezuelan people remain trapped between collapsing infrastructure, rampant inflation, and mass immigration. Over 7 million have fled the country, creating one of the largest humanitarian crises of the modern era. Yet in the eyes of Washington, Brussels, and Beijing alike, the suffering population is secondary to the strategic riches buried beneath Venezuelan soil. The U.S., rattled by the decline of the dollar and its growing debt crisis, sees in Venezuela's oil and lithium reserves a lifeline. Securing access would not only undermine rivals like China, but also provide collateral for a faltering financial system that is increasingly detached from real assets. Hence the constant cycle of sanctions, covert operations, and attempts to engineer regime change, policies that echo the colonial playbook of centuries past. But the game is no longer one-sided. China offers Maduro investments and infrastructure in exchange for access to resources. Russia supplies weapons and military advisors. Iran provides fuel and technology to bypass sanctions. Together, they shield Maduro just enough to keep him in power, making Venezuela a pawn in the wider geopolitical chessboard. Thus, Venezuela's tragedy is not only internal corruption or external imperialism. It is the convergence of both. A ruling elite that bleeds the nation dry meets a global struggle for commodities that turns its territory into a battlefield of empires. Oil, gold, and lithium are the new chains of colonialism, and the Venezuelan people are once again caught in the crossfire.